We have a very special guest here today coming on the show with us. I'm Donnie Rightside. He's Kyle Provides, and also Dave Mason on the phone from Betonline to get that bookmaker's perspective on Week 5. I'm excited for the show, Kyle. It is a big week coming up here. We know the players of these games. Now we just got to find out some of these winners.
That's right. And, hey, it's starting to look good, kind of an apprehensive week last week. Some games moved, games delayed, and there was some nervousness around Buffalo, Tennessee. It looks like Tennessee's doing well, so that's a positive sign. We're going to have a nice full slate of games. I'm excited to have Dave on. I'm actually a big fan of BetOnline, and I love the poker tournaments over there as well. So I'm pretty excited for all that and looking forward to Week 5.
Yeah, it looks like Kyle trying to angle already with Dave for some free bets and some action over there at BetOnline. So we'll see if we can work that in the show. We do have Dave here online. It's always wonderful to have him on, get that perspective from the opposite side of the counter that like to get after. Dave, welcome on to the show. Good to have you this week for Week 5.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, don't give out too mmany winners, man. The NFL's been a freaking it's been tough from a bookmaker's perspective. So be nice to us this weekend. Let's save some winners for the house, please.
There you go. The price is always right. We can always hand out those losers just as much as we hope that we can hand out some winners here. But let's have some fun. We got Dave for about 15 minutes and some good stuff to go over here. But the first thing I do want to bring up is obviously in this whole atmosphere, we saw it over the summer, just trying to get to football season was a challenge. And now we're seeing COVID-19 enter into some cancellation of games and also postponing some games. I saw a lot of things going around the internet, both legal and offshore accounts here. How did you handle the action with the Chiefs and the Patriots game? Because if you have a move from a rescheduling from a 1 o'clock to 4:25, same day, same stadium. We know the same of the players, but moving it off of that date. Did you guys, Dave, hold fun back? How did you actually handle an interesting situation like that?
Yeah, this whole 2020 has been a pain in the neck, man. So it's just like, well, here we go again. But no, same day. It's good action's fine. If they just moved it to the night or later in the day or whatever, that's what had action. This is a very popular question. I mean, I just literally 10 minutes ago, a guy hit me up on Twitter DM, asking why his bets got no action. But yeah, you change a day. It's just it's the rules. It's black and white on a website that if you change a day, bets are no action. So it's definitely a popular question, but guys are kind of fired up at first, but you're like, dude, these are the rules, man. This is pretty dang standard. Action them. So it really didn't matter too much at the end of the day, right? So teasers were teasers no action or reduced. Same with parlay. Parlays are reduced, so it's just that whole. It's not just that the bet got parlays, teasers, straight bets, this, that, and the other thing. But that's the world we live in this year. It's just everything's a pain in the neck. So you deal with it and you go on and you just try to hope. We've tried to, with all this crazy stuff this year. We've tried to be as fair with the players as possible. NBA division bets. We graded all the winners, and we no actioned all other teams. Same with NHL and some other, like the MLB playoffs. We put up the odds on the site to miss the MLB playoffs, and day one of the season they say, oh, we're going from 10 to 16 teams. Like, well, what? We based our damn odds off 10 teams, and now you're throwing this. I mean, that was like the day before the season started. So what did we do? We just let it play out. And we graded the winners, and we no actioned all losers. So whatever.
Yeah, it's interesting because you get that 50-50, I guess, anger and happiness because the guy that jumped in early and said, hey, man, I got the Chiefs at -7. Dave, how could you pull that off the board? It's now 11. I want my 7, and vice versa for the opposite side. If you said, hey, I'm actually glad that game is now off the board because there's no way I was going to be able to lock in that number and keep it the same where I bet Cam Newton in that instance. But also looking forward because it's always interesting to watch because obviously we always hear the pros versus Joes argument, but there's certainly the same way us as sports bettors, gamblers, and handicappers are rooting on who's going to win or lose. You also have that same perspective, Dave, from behind the counter saying, you know what? I really wasn't a fan of the Chicago Bears, or I wasn't a fan of the 49ers, but I'm a huge fan of them today. Talk about some of those winners and losers on Sunday that you were riding that rail and saying, boy, I hope this game comes in, or hey, this game goes a little bit sideways. This might be good for us here at the book.
Yeah, good. I'll start with the good first, since I'm such a positive guy. Carolina big, Cleveland big. Chargers and Giants. So those were our best. New Orleans was bad. Buffalo was really bad, and Seattle was god awful. I mean, Seattle. I mean, we had some whale some whale. He must be the biggest Seattle fan, but I mean, last week he bet over 200,000. Last week he bet like 190,000 on their money line, and then last week like 210,000 on their money line. So that just added to. It was already an extremely lopsided game, but that dude right on top of that just made it that much more lopsided. So those were the worst. But all in all, the action's great, and from a bookmaking, we don't mind losing. If we're gonna lose, let's lose early in the season. So I work on more marketing side of things. So there's no better, and we're always looking at active numbers. They go up and down throughout the season. Starts out great, then kind of get to November, they go down a little bit, then they bump up again around Thanksgiving, then they go in December. But nothing. We think all these promos and stuff, how to keep people active on the site. Nothing keeps people more active than winning. So you don't lose players, you know what I mean? So it's like, bring on week 5. We're going to have record numbers next week because people have money in their accounts. Plus the casino manager loves it when we lose because people bang into this. He's the happiest guy in the company. He's probably the only happy guy in the company.
That's good. Well, you talk about the winners and losers, and I can assure you I gave out some losers last week, so you're welcome over there at Betonline. But when we're looking ahead to week 5, and there was some uncertainty going in. I mean, there still is around Buffalo, Tennessee, and maybe the quarterback situation in New England. Will Cam Newton be available maybe in San Francisco? What are some things you're looking at early for week 5, some movements where you think some action might be? What's raising your eyebrows for week 5?
Well, action-wise, I mean, everybody and their mother's on Tampa Bay and on Thursday. 85% of the early actions on Tampa Bay. Open 6, down to -5.5, which tells you it was a little weird, but a little reverse line movement there. But what else is getting bet? Arizona is going to be sweat of the century. 93% of the early actions on Arizona. Currently -7. At the Jets. What else here? What are the big one? Dallas, they're getting bet, believe it or not. But they're playing the Giants. That's why 70% of the early bettors are on Dallas -9.5. Biggest moves, let's see. Cleveland, they're currently +2.5. They open +1 versus Indy. That Arizona Jets game 7.5-7. Rams, Washington 9.5-8, and what's another one? Carolina, Atlanta, probably the most significant move. Atlanta open -3.5, they're down to 2.5, so they cross that 3.
Talking with Dave Mason here from Bet Online. Guys, if you're just in the chat box watching, we do say hello and thank you for that. 70,300 people have subscribed to the network right here on YouTube at sportsbookreview.com. Turn those notification bells on if you haven't done so yet. Every time we talk NFL action, to get it delivered directly to your inbox. Looking up at this week coming up, Dave, because we always see the corrections, and we really didn't know we would head into a COVID era. Was it going to be higher scoring? Was it going to be lower scoring? Was it going to be real sloppy play? The one thing is consistent is we are seeing a lot of injuries because you didn't have the build up to the season. But from your perspective, looking at this, I'm a totals guy. And, most people like to bet over the total. We see the market corrections coming up here, but even entering into last week, the numbers still seemed higher, but it didn't matter. So now we're seeing, the 52s, 53s, even some of the lines that we've seen, the 57s and the 58s that are posting on the board, we would see those maybe once every 10 years. Now it seems like we're seeing them once every week. Is there a market correction from your side that you're analyzing each week and maybe giving a bump until you hit that ceiling? Because we know there's sharper players out there that are waiting for that over-escalation of overs and just hammer the unders, but it hasn't come yet. Talk about some of the prognostication that you go through to try to make this happen with the numbers that you find.
No, absolutely. And, this has been a trend for years. I mean, thinking back 10 years ago, whatever, the average total is probably 44.5. And every given week you had freaking 4 or 5 games in the 30s, and the rest were high 40s. And once in a while, you get that game in the low 50s. But now it's like, oh my, we had that game that was 39 last week or whatever, and one team almost covered the 39. I think it closed 41. But I mean, it's perverse. It's crazy. But a lot's going into that, right? New rule changes, want a more exciting league, and can't hit the quarterback, can't hit receivers, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, the COVID is adding on to that too, right? Visiting teams are having a lot easier time going up and down the field. They're not having to deal with that crowd noise and silent counts and all that stuff. So without a doubt, I mean, it's still work in progress, Donnie. I mean, we're still working on it, man. At the end of the day, 4 weeks really isn't a huge sample size. It could easily bounce back, and we don't want to be caught with our pants down and just over adjust just because overs are covering and we're getting beat up a little bit, but we don't want to come too high. Then all of a sudden those sharp guys just take advantage of us and we get pummeled that week when it does adjust. So we're moving up, but you got to keep it back in your mind. This is still just a small sample size. 4 weeks, don't over adjust. Let's keep on creeping up, but we don't want to get we don't want to get pummeled by those sharps. And, we take that sharp action. So, those guys coming in and betting 5 figures and while we're over adjusting, trying to, afraid about all that public money, just let it play out. Keep paying attention to what those numbers are and keep adjusting slightly and see where we're at.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense because even you're still looking, obviously, in early October. You still have the really nice weather. And again, it does play into it a lot because from the past, you're trying to look for an angle saying, it's really hard just to win on the road as is. But you're right. You're not getting the crowd noise from both angles. So each offense can make adjustments. They can be calm. There's no false starts. And that pretends to me to have a higher number. But also, Dave, talk about some of the prohibitive favorites in the NFL, because again, the double-digit favorites seem to be popping up, and it's almost like a line is never too high for Kansas City or the Baltimore Ravens as they stack up. You're getting a division rival. The old adage used to go is like, man, you can't lay double digits in division. You see it this weekend coming up with Kansas City and Las Vegas, who isn't a bad football team, and that hot line of 13.5 if it goes to 14. Is there an overcorrection for these high-powered upper echelon teams that you try to seek out a certain number for? Or just, hey, it's a short season so far, we'll see how it plays out. But right now, the numbers tell us they should be double-digit favorites in these.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the Chiefs are the Chiefs. I mean, they're the new Patriots. You know what I mean? It's just you look at. I'm sure someone's going to beat them, but I don't know who. And yeah, the Raiders are improved. They could make a move for a wild card team, but they're still a couple levels, 3 levels down from the Chiefs juggernaut. I mean, we actually paid out Chiefs to win the AFC West today. We had enough, so we paid it. I mean, the other teams the other 3 teams still have action. We didn't know action those or pay them losers, but we already paid out the Chiefs, man. We're like, screw it, man. Let's pay them out. Let's get some people money back in their account. So, if one of those other teams that Mahomes, tears an Achilles and one of those other teams ends up winning the end of the season, then shame on us. But screw it, throw it out there.
I love that. And that's why I love Betonline as I angle for my free credits over there at Betonline. But you mentioned the Cardinals, a lot of money coming in on the Cardinals right now. Are there some other games where you're like, look, I think the public's going to be so heavy on this side. We are rooting for this to happen. And maybe a couple things. Second question. What are some things you're offering over at BetOnline to kind of bring people in for newcomers, some promos maybe that's going on that you want to let everybody know about?
Well, I mean, just looking at this board, I mean, I shared some of the percentages, but that only tells half the story. Then you throw these damn teasers on top of that, and this is a teaser happy weekend. Cardinals -7. Everybody loves teasing that from that 8 to 6.5 point range, 8 to 6 point range. They love teasing down through the 3, and they're only given a point and a half, whatever. I mean, the Cardinals -7. That everybody's going to be teasing that. Rams against the football team -8. That's going to be involved in every dang teaser on planet Earth. Seahawks Vikings -7. Teaser. Those 3. I mean, those 3 are. We need one of those things to one of those games to be an outright upset, or we're going to get creamed on teasers. I'll tell you that right now. So yeah, I'm looking at those. Oh, and Monday night, New Orleans Saints -7.5 versus a visiting Chargers. So yeah, absolutely. So I'm looking at teasers too as kind of that secondary thing. Those percentages I share only tell half the story. Then you add those dang teasers on it, and it's a whole nother thing. As far as things going on, we actually have we're putting a lot of money into contests, man. We had a $250,000 mega contest, $125,000 survivor pool, but we also have a second chance survivor pool. You can sign up for it now. It starts this weekend. $100,000 prize pool, or it could be just a single prize. So there's only one winner. So it starts this weekend. Only $25 to enter. So you can turn $25 into $100,000. Get it on our second chance survivor pool. Go to the contest page for details.
Dave Mason, always a very busy man, and there's a reason why he's one of the best in the industry, coming on and talking us through the process of standing across the counter, looking at us, quote unquote, sharp guys over here. Dave, thanks so much for your time. We really appreciate you coming on with us today.
All right, again, take it easy on this weekend. We need a big NFL winner for once. I think we had one big winner, one huge loser, and 2 break even on a loser. Come on, guys. Take it easy on us. Later.